June became the Director of Technology at Moore Public Schools in 2013 and has led the district in developing a framework for data privacy. He's now leading an effort to create a statewide consortium. I have had the pleasure of working alongside him for several years now as a colleague and friend on the OKSPA Board of Directors. He has contributed substantially to advancing our mission and work. Thank you, June. Thank you for your work on behalf of OKSPA and the teachers and education stakeholders in this state, and for all that you've done to get this work off the ground. I would like to tell you that OKSPA has partnered with Access for Learning as the state affiliate. More information will be coming soon on this. So please join me in welcoming June Kim as our presenter today. You are going to learn a lot and are going to enjoy this, and I'm sure you'll have many questions. So June, take it from here.
Thank you for that introduction, Kurt and Donna. Welcome. Love seeing all the different folks coming on here. Again, my name is June Kim. I'm the Director of Technology for Moore Public Schools. I can't say I don't have an IT background anymore after being in this for 10 years, but started out as a classroom science teacher in the junior high, teaching little kiddos how to blow things up and make things stink around the classrooms, as well as being a assistant principal in the junior high and at Southmore High School working with freshmen. So I thought I would miss being around kids. I do, but what we're doing here is, I think, more impactful in what we're trying to do in working with kids. We all get into education thinking that we're going to teach curriculum, we're going to teach how to be successful, and we are. But one thing that I've come to understand, in whether you're in the classroom or building principal or even at the administration building, there are three tenets that we subscribe to with kids: is keeping them secure, keeping them safe, right? So we work on the physical safety of our kids. We work on the emotional safety of our kids. What we want to focus is that third wheel, the digital safety of our kids, because we are now in that digital world where it's everywhere. And by the time, even now, as these kids graduate, but the little ones, they're going to be living in it. So we need to start working on how do we keep them not just physically safe, emotionally safe, but we need to keep them digitally safe. So that's what we are going to work on today, and kind of give you where we are at and what kind of information we need to pass on to you folks. If you could, in the chat, because I'd love to see where everybody's at. If you could, your name, your district, and what you are doing, teacher, classroom teacher, building principal, so we can kind of see what we're working with here, if you don't mind. And I will adjust to that. Additionally, as you guys go through this, this is not a one, I don't want this to be a one-way. I want to share information, but please stop me at any time. Kurt is going to be monitoring the chat. Raise your hand, put the questions in there, interrupt me. I have no issues. Remember, I said I work with junior high kids. I'm good with being interrupted. It's just part of life. So anytime there are questions, just put it out there and we'll try to go from there. So seeing a lot of EdTech folks and administrators, so awesome. Ooh. Oh, we even have folks from OMES, SDE, cool. All right. So we're going to get started. I assume everybody can see my screen. So we're going to go. I just want to put a little disclaimer. Closed caption is auto-generated through the PowerPoint. So not my spelling, but it's pretty close to the way I spell in a normal course of the day. So please excuse those things. We're going to talk about the Oklahoma Data Privacy Alliance. So we're looking at where we as a state come together to identify and put our kids first in how we're treating data. So this will not only help the small schools, because you don't have time. I see a lot of small schools out here as well. It's hard for you to be the bus driver and assistant principal and teaching a class and worried about data integration and how things are going. So we're trying to make it easier, or at least provide you a framework so that we're doing the work for you, so you can focus on those kiddos. But we need to make sure that what we're bringing into the district is safe, and just had a conversation with OSDE yesterday about the data privacy, and we'll continue to have those conversations about what they're pushing down from the state level as well. So this is a topic of conversation across the US as well as here in Oklahoma, and people are aware of it. So that's where we're going with this. Here we go. I need you to start changing your mindset, because data security is a mindset change. It's not just about something we do, it's about how we bring everything, that data privacy, into everything that we're doing, just like you're doing FERPA, when you're working with students and parents and having that beer after work, or drink of choice after work, I should say, and you don't want to talk about students in that sense. Same thing with digital. We got to be careful and be aware of how we're using the data when we're looking at integrating software into our classroom. So it's a mindset change. So everything that you do is based on the people, our students, you as staff members. If you have a data breach, it's not only going to impact the students, but your staff members, everybody within it, possibly your parents. So everything that you bring in, what you're bringing in, it's about the people. And in this case, we're talking about students, staff, patrons, everything that we have, it's about the people. That has to become your belief system. Everything you do, your mission statement has to include something about how are we protecting, how are we securing our information from how you teach and how students learn. Make that your belief system, because once you have that belief system, your process has to change. How you behave, be purposeful, be deliberate. You cannot contradict your belief system. Because if you say data is priority, then what you bring in, how you purchase, how you vet has to do that. Same thing with if you care about kids. Well, how are you doing that? So your belief system has to match your behavior. So look at your people, look at your processes, and that's what we're going to focus on today. What is your process in making sure that what you bring in and how you use things are securing the kids' information, the staff's information, your parents' information? The last component is the technology. You can put whatever technology framework in place, but if your people and your processes don't match, you incorporate the technology. Technology is the tool. And I'm going to show you some tools at the very end here on how you can use some of the tools that are available to help vet the programs and share that information and talk to your folks, okay? The last thing, once you believe and once you behave, you have to have a checks and balances. That's how you become things. Because if you believe in something, but your behavior doesn't match, what are you truly becoming? Make sure whatever you do, you have a way to check back to what you're doing. Is this really what our district is about? Is this really what our classroom is about, or your building is about? So believe, behave, become. Keep that in your mantra. Everything that you believe and do should match up. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. So again, ask questions if you're like, what the crap are you talking about? This is not IT stuff. It's about your mindset, changing your mindset. So in the chat, I would love for you to just put in there, when you think of this picture, what's the first thing that you worry about when you think about going to the ocean or going to the beach? What do you worry about? I had my first cruise this winter break, and I was afraid of drowning. That was me, because I am not a swimmer. So Scott Mecca, what's HMLs? I have no idea what that is. Weather, jellyfish, yeah. Weather, sharks, got a couple of sharks. Yeah. Got it. Scott's too smart. Sunscreen. Love it. So we worry about all these different things, sunburn, yeah. But did you know that Sharks, the likelihood of being fatal is pretty high. You actually have a greater risk of dying from a vending machine falling on you. So based on your environment, we take things and we worry about stuff, but we generally tend not to worry about a vending machine that's right there. That's probably more dangerous to our life and safety than a shark attack in the ocean. So in your current position, what are you worried about as as a classroom teacher, as a building principal, as an IT director? There's a lot of things that come to mind as what we worry about. Not to say this should be the forefront of what you worry about, because again, the safety of our kids, instructional efficiency, proper integration of technology, all those things are critical. We all have those worries. It's a matter of how we address it, how we bring it about. And the fact that data privacy is one of those things that we all look at. What I bet you don't think about is being in the headlines. And if you're in one of these schools, I apologize now. I mean, but we don't think about being in the news or your superintendent coming up on these things because something has happened. It's going to happen. I will guarantee you it will happen to us at some point or another. It's about how we mitigate it and reduce the risk of losing that data to somebody that we don't want. Our most common threats are our people. Free instructional websites, resources, people pushing stuff out, phishing emails, leaving your password or your desktops unlocked or weak passwords, just human error. We just hit that button accidentally. But it's our people. It's not so much the technology, but it's our people that create our greatest security threats. So how do we minimize that in what we're doing? That's the goal. Look at your process. Our greatest threat is our people. How do we change our process before we keep adding other technologies? Because we only have a finite amount of resources to spend. So how can we do these things? And that's what we're going to talk about. Since 2017, here's some of the information about the breaches. Since 2016, we've had, and this is information as current as yesterday, this month, we've had over 1,300 cyber incidents in K-12. We are the leading target of cyber attacks. Right now, we are in more public schools is getting DDoSed, and we just had an incident around 10 o'clock today, and we've been getting hit. Not stealing our threat, but it's taking down our functionality, right? So this is an ongoing thing because schools are considered soft targets. We're an easy target because most of our people don't understand cybersecurity. They don't understand, they know how to use some technology, but they don't understand how to use it properly and safely. Passwords being the greatest example. We use the same password for what we do in the classroom, as well as their personal banking and personal information. So if one gets breached, here we go. So in that mindset, everything that we're talking about is about not what June Kim wants, not what June Kim says we have to do, but it's law. There are regulations that says we have to follow these processes. Before I go back, what kind of data do they want? They want clean for the kiddos. They want clean data. So their username, their names to start out with, their email information, any information that they can pull, because the kiddos, their data is clean, their credit history is clean, so they can use those names as they graduate and start working and create identities and pull that information. So our kids are soft targets because there's no credit history. They don't do credit checks. There's nothing there. So it is a gold mine on some of those things. Hopefully that helps. They're looking for anything. And sometimes student ID numbers to create, to get whatever information. So it's a lot of things for sure. So it's the law. There's hundreds of laws. Everybody's familiar with FERPA, HIPAA, all those things. Translate that now into digital world? How are we protecting those things in the digital safety? How many times have you guys sent an email to another teacher or parent with the student's ID number, their medical information, their 504 information or special ed information, and don't secure that? How many times have you sent an email and said, oh, wrong sender, and we send it to the wrong individual? How many of you guys have sent your W-2 information around this time to your credit, your bank people, or to your tax person over an unsecure email? Those things can be accidentally missent. And if we're under attack and somebody's monitoring those things, those can be pulled in. So be careful about what we're sending. But there's laws upon laws about how we're doing this. So this is not a June Kim thing. Okay. So be aware that this is about compliance. And you are responsible for that. We do a great job about OSDE putting out, hey, you have to teach this, or you don't teach that, or whatever it may be. The data privacy is there along with it. So with that, so what now? Well, it's about policy reinforcement. We as a building have to talk the same language. Everybody from the teacher to the custodian to the bus driver to the parents and the school board members have to understand the basics of data privacy and what it means to bring data in or to bring software in, and make sure that everybody is aware of why we won't bring something in versus why we will. And even though it's the greatest thing, greatest instructional tool, if it doesn't meet the standards, we don't bring it in. Okay. So talk about those things, but this, at the very end, we'll talk about next steps. But you're here first step. You're here having this conversation, but you need to take this back and start having these conversations with your staff, with your leadership. Okay. Everything that we're getting ready to talk about is based on COSIN and through the trusted learning environment. I want to go very briefly over this and very quickly. If you want to go more into this, love to have that conversation with you at a building level. Just had a conversation with Mid-Del with their leadership. So I'm willing to come out and talk to you guys about any of this stuff if you want a one-on-one with your leadership team. So just let me know. There are 5 core principles to the TLE: leadership practices, business, security, classroom, and professional development. We are going to focus on the business side of it, leadership and business side. The data, classroom, professional development, we'll talk very briefly on it. We'll talk about the classroom and how classroom teachers are requesting software. If you're a curriculum coordinator, how that process works. So going to go through this pretty quickly. What this means is that leadership, you're able to talk to everybody from board members to the patrons about how your data is being used by the students. By law, we have to show parents how we're doing that. And I'm going to show you how we can do that easily with our Access for Learning membership through SDPC. And it's a pretty cool tool that you'll be able to use and just put it on your website and point it to that link. And everybody knows how they're using the data. We're going to talk about business practices, about how you're vetting it. That's where I'm going to focus a lot of this information at once we get through this in the second half of it. Talking about how we're vetting it. And I don't know if any of my team members from more schools is here. Kudos to my EdTech department, kudos to my curriculum and my leadership for saying, yes, we're going to do this, because without that buy-in and that support, it would not be where we are, because they really do see the process and the need for this process to keep our kids safe. Data security, that is more for your IT team on how you do your security measures. Professional development, we are changing this process constantly, how we're teaching our teachers, how we're teaching our students. It's no longer just about SIPA compliance where we're saying, hey, don't click on this page, don't be careful with your chat. It's about all the digital safety that we need to teach everybody, and how classroom teachers are going to have to be the forefront in talking to students and talking to parents. So we just launched this semester. Our EdTech team is going out and talking to teachers about, here's the information. This is what you need to share with your kids and with your parents. And we're putting the onus on them about, this is how we're protecting your kiddos. All right. So where do we start? Well, you got to know where you're at, know what you're about, what your current policies and procedures are, and then be transparent. If you got work to do, let your parents know, let your board members know, we got work to do. Here's where we're weak. Here's where we're strong. Here's what we're working on. But know where your starting point is so you know you're making movement. And the process that we've established more has taken us over 5 years. It's a slow process to tell the teacher no, but don't have a process to get to a yes is detrimental. Know where your boundaries are, know what you want, where you want to be, know your belief system, then adjust your processes. How secure is it? Well, this is the process. In the leadership, there are 4 or 5 different things. Are you making deliberate decisions? Are you looking at your data security? What are your policies, your board policies, your procedures on how to do all these things? Are there any regulations based on these things? Does your executive team or your leadership team know who's responsible for what if you have questions? IT and EdTech directors, tag your it probably. Curriculum coordinators, possibly. If you're everything, good luck to you. Holler at me, we'll help you out. Okay. But guess what? Leadership is at all levels. Let me make that very clear and let me say it again. Leadership is at all levels. Everybody from the custodian to transportation folks to the classroom teachers, it doesn't matter what your title is. Everyone is a leader in determining the safety and security of our students' data, just like they are responsible for the physical safety of our kids and the emotional safety of our kids. The data security of our kids is relying on everybody. So just because you have a title doesn't mean tag your it. It's everybody's responsibility. Leadership also talks about how you're bringing in those resources and things of that nature. So this is an easy thing, but you got to start the conversation and you got to start developing some procedures. Business operations, we'll talk through that. I'm going to pass through it because I'm going to show you what this looks like. It's about contract language. It's about how you're vetting your applications and making sure that this is how we bring stuff in. So contract language includes ownership, liability, all these things. What are you going to do? Is it stored in the US and why is that important? You know, do you have a data inventory? What data are they pulling? How are they securing it? Is there advertisement? How are they destroying it once you leave? These are things that you have to have in your contract language. And guess what? STPC and what we've done with the State Alliance takes care of all this for you. Okay. Done. Once the vendor fills this out, they sign it, countersign it. For more public schools, it's available for every school in the state of Oklahoma to tag off of and utilize. It's done. So if Edmund does this for one of their software and I don't have it, I can just tag off of them. And that's what we're working on so that eventually we will have a library of multiple software, whether we use it or not, that everybody can tag and look at and how they're using it. So for example, we're in the process of vetting our foreign language stuff, going through all those things. Once we're done, I will share it out on that STPC. So everybody that's getting ready to do textbook adoptions for foreign language can say, oh, look, this company doesn't do well. More denied them, or they're not approved for use in Moore, Oklahoma. Why is that? So starting the conversation, and that will put some pressure on those companies that want to do business. It will actually, sorry, OSDE members and OMES members that are on here, it will put the onus on them as well to not just approve software or textbooks without vetting them. Because I'm going to throw the finger back at them, not the middle one, but just to point the finger, sorry, and say, look, OSDE, you approve this, but why? You didn't vet this. You didn't tell us why it's good to go or not good to go. All right. So it starts the conversation, and we're hoping that this process will also assist OSDE and OMES when we're talking about K-12 software and instructional materials. I'm going to skip through that. Classroom stuff, teachers, you're responsible. So what now? All right. All right, moving very quickly. Sorry about that, guys. I want to make sure we talk about some of the tools that we can use. This is borrowed from the Ohio Data Privacy Alliance. We're learning about this. I need you to start with learning what the laws are. Start with that. As you're learning, start talking to your leadership. If you're the leadership, start talking to your people underneath you. Start having the conversation. Why is protecting student data so important? Why is it critical? What are the ramifications, fiscal as well as just what I call political equity amongst your community members? Start having that conversation and then build your team. That's going to take some time. Okay. The rest of the stuff we'll start working with you. Okay. But start the conversation. Know what laws are out there and start talking to your team about, okay, what is our belief system? Where do we want to go as we move forward from this? All right. With that said, I'm going to close this and show you some of our tools. So the first one that we do, we use Incident IQ as a help desk. So this has been in place for a couple of years now. When vetting software, it's a relationship between your curriculum, your IT, and EdTech. And if you're all that one person, I'm sorry, holler at me, we'll help you out. But we use Incident IQ as our help desk. This is the holy grail for us. When a person wants a new software, they create a new ticket and they click this button where that says get approval for new software. They start describing, there's lots of questions that goes through. There are 2 questions for the curriculum. What subject, what grade level? And do they already have something in place? Here's why we ask those. We know by asking what the subject is, what curriculum coordinator it goes to. They know what grade level they're looking at, and the curriculum coordinator can say, we have tools already that we're paying for that meets this. The answer is no. So the first step in this process helps save the district money, number one, in reducing the repeat software or software that is like but not similar because somebody just likes it better. If the district is already spending money on that, that stops the conversation right there. If it's something that doesn't meet curricular needs, hey, we're teaching it this way. Our district wants to teach this subject in this manner. This software does not. Answer is no. Okay. So they go through these processes. They answer these coordinator questions. EdTech has some areas about the data privacy. So they help us out with the data security, getting the information, and then we go through the vetting process. So this is what it looks like when it's all said and done on this far right side. So Miss Monroe, I don't know if she's on here. One of our EdTech folks worked with our ELL teacher, or not ELL, but our foreign language coordinator. So they submitted a ticket for a program through Vista Higher Learning. So they finished all this stuff out, sent me a link to the website. They've included our vetting process. So we have a vetting process, and I'll show you what that looks like. Once I review it, I can go in and put in the comments of, yes, it's approved, not approved, here's why, and I'll show you some of those things that it has on there. So this is what the questionnaire looks like. Okay, so this is sent to every software company that comes in. And if you want copies of this, let me know and I will send it to you. Okay, and I'll put my email in at the end, and just let me know you want it. I just ask that if you modify it, send it back to me so I can steal your great ideas. So this is an data privacy integration and attestation. What that basically is saying, hey, vendor, I'm going to hold you responsible for everything. The information is true and accurate. And you can't come back and say this. This helps us identify, do we want this? Will it integrate with our Canvas or Clever, or how does it work? Are you doing everything to keep safe? So one of the first 3 questions is, do they follow federal law? FERPA, SIPA, all those things. The other area is GDPR. Believe it or not, that's a critical area if you're collecting PII and if it goes across seas and if you have foreign exchange students. So there's a list of questions that we ask. One of the things that we ask on the data security side, on the IT side, is what is the framework in which they've looked at this? How are they protecting our data? If they don't have a standard and it's Bob's garage, you might want to rethink it. Okay, you might want to rethink what they're doing. Mr. Rogers has an attorney looked over this. Yes, it's been modified. Different attorneys will have different conversations. This is not a contract. This is a survey, and I'm just going to hold them responsible, saying you lied to me. But yeah. We also look at whether it's, again, stored outside the US, that a big conversation. We won't go there. A lot of questions within it. And again, I won't waste your time on it. We talk about the EdTech integration. One of the things that we added this January, what I'm looking at is this part, the accessibility and inclusivity. How are we working for our visually challenged, our auditory challenged, different students that we need to assist? Not just the Web 2.0, but are you looking at changing your software to assist other students? Because you got the Oklahoma School for the Deaf. If it's good for them, why can't it be good for us, and vice versa? Why should they have just a specialized program that maybe not be as good or whatever, just because they have a disability? So asking those questions and having those conversations. So we go through all that. We vet it. If we like it, we look at their data privacy. For example, I just had one where within the survey, they said, hey, yeah, we don't send data across the pond. But in their data privacy website, it says, hey, data can be transmitted to their home country in all these different places. So the question is, which is true? And holding the person who filled this out accountable, saying you lied, if they say, or if you're mistaken, know your product better, get better at your job type conversations. And I'm sorry, but they do. So that's the first step. And if it meets all that, our next piece of software or document is this, the Oklahoma Privacy Agreement. This is new, and you guys will have access to this in the website that I'll show you. We fill this out, we send it to them, they fill all this information out, and it's basically legalese. This has been vetted, Mr. Rogers. Adam, I'm picking on you because I know you. I love you, man. But this has also been vetted by our legal team. They're good to go. This is a copy from the national DPA. Other states use the same thing. There are 38 different states that use the same documentation, so it's been vetted. This can be used by anybody in Oklahoma. So they fill all this stuff out. It's already been preloaded with all those questions, the legalese about data destruction, all those things that we talked about in the vetting process. The part that I want to show you is Exhibit E. So when the vendor signs this, they put the information in here. So if Edmund wants to use the same software, instead of the vendor filling out this whole thing over again and doing the whole vetting thing, they just send them a copy of this Exhibit E. They fill it out, provider signs it, we're good to go, because you're just tagging onto it. It helps the vendors reduce their paperwork and time for their attorneys to look it over and doing all those things. So this is where we're going. This is just an agreement. The difference between this agreement and the vetting, completely separate. This is a statewide agreement that we can use. The vetting process is specific to Moore, Oklahoma. If you want to use it for your vetting process, go for it, modify it, change it, just share it with everybody. Because you know your district. And one of the questions you should be asking, does it work with, if you're not a Clever district, does it work with ClassLink? If you're a ClassLink but not a Clever, does it work with ClassLink? Do you have stricter data privacy laws within your, or policies within your district? Modify it to your needs before you approve it. If you don't care that the data is across the pond, take it out. So that's the vetting. How do we initially look at bringing it in? Does it meet all the requirements for us to look at it, purchase it? Awesome. Then send them this document, the NDPA, for them to sign. And this is an agreement saying this is how we're going to destroy your data, how we're going to hold your data, and share your information. Okay. And this includes third parties. They're responsible for the third parties. All right. Questions so far? I'm not seeing a whole lot, but are there any questions? I'm going to pause for a second. Kurt, is there any questions that you're seeing? Raised hands or anything? No?
No, not at this time. Just
All
the
right.
ones using.
All right, here we go. We're going to keep moving then. So that's our ticketing system. Those are the forms we use. But even, let's go back even further. When we go to, stop it. Stop it. Move. Sorry. Teacher tools. So on our website, our teachers, our EdTech, man, I'm telling you, they're phenomenal. You can't have them. We created this whole teacher tools section here, and within the teacher tools, they can find where everything's at. So first question, is it district approved? So everything that we're vetting, they can do a quick view. So anything that comes to us, and even if they don't meet it, we list it on there. So in case there's any questions, and it's public knowledge. So those vendors, when they see it, or the other districts can look at it and say, why is that? Why were we denied? They can ask those questions, and we're moving this to the STPC over a period of time as we start continuing to vet programs. Okay. I want to move this down because that thing is getting in my way. This is the first thing the teachers look at. This is our vetting process. So just asking, hey, is it already pre-approved? Before they even put in a ticket, they're asking these questions, and we want the teachers to have some onus. We won't go through all these things. The link for this is in the chat box, so you guys can take a look at it. But this is the first step. Again, modify all you need, but they look at this and say, okay, where does it go? When do we put in a ticket? And if you look right here, does it cost money? And if it does, do you have money secured? So I see Micah from our CTE program. So Micah, do you have money? And if she says no, then it goes this way. And good luck next year, save your pennies and raid your piggy bank next year type conversation. Because one of the things that we found was that we vet all of it, and they said, oh, just kidding, we don't need it because we don't have money to pay for it, or they asked me to pay for it. No. So that is our vetting process. So this is, oh, I have it twice. This is our teacher tools, and I will put a link on there for you for that. Questions about our EdTech and our vetting process at this time? All right. And the last part, here's where we're at. The Oklahoma Student Privacy Alliance. This is the money that we've been working on for a while. So we are now part of Access for Learning. OKSPA has been gracious to pay for a membership for the entire state of Oklahoma for all K-12. Everybody is eligible. So when you go to this site, putting the link there, you have access to it, and you can see all the different states that are part of this. Okay. You can also go into view participating districts. These are districts that have already started the process. Okay. So if you're here, thank you for doing that. And sorry for me emailing and bombarding you with get registered. But you can see what this looks like, and I'll show you where More Public Schools is at. This is that website that you create a link to tell your parents how we're using the data and what's going on. So here's a list of the softwares that we currently have. You can see the software name. You can sort it any way you want. The agreement is active. You'll notice that within the agreement type, we have OK NDPA versus in-district use. If you have policies or software that you've already have in place, you can just identify it as in-district use. There's no state NDPA. So like Final Site, we're in contract with them. We're working with them, and we're looking at our website development, but they're in district, they're used, they're pre-approved. We're just waiting on the NDPA signatory stuff, and that will change. You can see that Lightspeed, if you're a Lightspeed customer, or Pearson, I'll get with them later, but let's look at Lightspeed filtering. If you're a filter company, you can see that it's got an NDPA here. So what we've done is they've filled out all the information. It's been signed. Everything's good to go. If you notice underneath Exhibit E, all you have to do is they've already signed it. You download it. So again, Edmund, whoever, download this and you send them this information. Countersign it because it says Moore Public Schools has already done this back on December 29, 22. And then you attach that to your district. The great part of this process, it tells me when I renew, I have a 3-year renewal process on their data privacy agreement. It's not annual to save everybody some time, but if they do change their data privacy policy, then I resend them that. So Lightspeed filter was one. They changed their privacy policy, so I sent them this and they completed it. Tells you what grade levels, content area, and this is the best part over on the far right. And I'm sorry that it's small. I'll expand it. You can see if you hover over those things, what data they are collecting or has access to or want access to. So we list everything. So I'll give you an example, reading eggs. It's in district use, but it's limited and we're working with them, but you can see all the stuff that they want, including passwords, gender, date of birth. So one of the questions was, what type of data do they collect or want? If I have your name and date of birth, what can I do with that? Lots of things. Do we collect date of birth through our SIS? Yes. Do we share that with other companies? Well, with this company, they may want it, but we may not give it to them. So what that data assessment and inventory is critical. And to say, what are we collecting from them? What do they want from us? And being able to say, you may want it, but you don't get it type conversations. So this is where we can tell the parents, hey, look, this is what they're wanting. And it also gives me a good back check in case there is a data breach and we know Reading Eggs got data breached. I can reach out saying, hey, you have access to all these things. Where is it? Who got impacted? Give me the information. Let's go move on from there. Okay. So this is part of the state law that says that you have to, as a district, I can't remember the policy number, but you have to identify on a public website how schools are using student data. Did you know that law? It's there. Okay. So this is the sharing part of it. This is where we're trying to do not everything for you, but trying to get it easier for everybody right now. If I were to go back, we just started this. You can see that we only have 15 districts right now. And even though it says 6 statewide agreements, we're working to increase that. So as I get software, we'll put that in there once we get the information. As districts start coming on board and we get you guys involved in it, that number will increase tremendously. So what I'm working on now is trying to work with the big companies, the big textbook companies that everybody uses. Follett is one that I just sent out. I haven't received there. As soon as I get that, that will be up there that any district can use. And look at how they're doing all this information. So that's where we're at. Everybody has access or can have access to this Oklahoma Alliance and this website. Utilize it. It helps your teachers know what's been approved and not approved. And if I can go back, you can see this agreement status. I can change this to no, not active. And I can say within the notes, just like here, with restriction, initial vetting is approved for purchase or implementation. District documentation is in place. We need to do a better one. So I can put notes in here and say, you know what, if this was inactive or denied, I can actually put denied. I don't have one right now, and you can see it, and everybody in the state of Oklahoma can see this. If you go to our website, it's public access. if you search through just the national database and you can see what other states are doing, you can find that information. So you go, well, if it hasn't been approved because it doesn't have data information or it doesn't protect us, you can say, sorry, come back. We're not going to take you. And I can be the bad guy for your district and say, hey, June Kim and more schools throw me under the bus, says they're not safe, so we can't use it. Awesome. And they can email me and I can be the bad person and you guys can go breathe a sigh of relief. All right. I have no issues being the bad guy, but this is something that you guys can definitely tap into. With that said, I'm going to stop sharing, leave the last 10 minutes for questions, concerns, anything that you may want to have. I went 1,000 miles per hour. I apologize. Nothing. OBKB. So as you're thinking about it, I will leave you with this. The safety of our kids is paramount, not just instructional. To reiterate, we focus on the digital safety very little. Work on the physical safety, working on the emotional safety. I just ask you to keep the digital safety of our kids in the forefront. What do your teachers use for digital citizenship? We use what is that? Common Sense Media, and our EdTech department is working on hand creating some things. Like I said, we just developed some digital safety, digital curriculum that we're sharing with our staff that they have to go through, and we're creating some infographics and short pages to teach our parents, because we want to share this with our parents as well, because some of our parents don't know either, and share with their grandparents that are maybe taking care of the kids, and they just know they're working with a laptop and they're just going everywhere, right? And giving it the 1,000 clicks of death. So that's what we're working with. Okay. So yeah, if you have other ways of digital citizenship, let us know. But Common Sense Media seems to do a really good job. It's pretty solid. But we wanted to cater a few things based on we used KnowBe4 and some of the common threats that we see on our staff. We want to share those things with other people as well. Adam, yeah, Adam, what about VeraCity? I've been talking to them a little bit too, to help vet the curriculum. Last time I talked to them, they have my data vetting stuff, but there's some things that aren't there yet. So yeah, to be continued on VeraCity. Do you have an antivirus you use? Yes. Whatever you use is awesome. There's some free stuff out there. There's paid for stuff out there. If you want to get into the nuts and bolts of what it would be the best for your district, reach out. I see a bunch of EdTech directors out here, Dee Benson out of Guthrie, Scott out of Salsall, Troy up in Cleveland, and saw some other folks in Norman and some other places. We can use what you think is best. And if you got some IT directors, post it on there and what you guys are using, because there's a bunch of stuff. Windows Defender and our firewall, awesome. It gets there. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. Best process for a vendor to get approved on your list. Be accurate, be visible, be honest in the approval process. When we first have the conversation, the first thing we send them is that vetting software or vetting document. They send that back to us and we talk about it. I've been going back and forth with a couple of, like I said, the foreign language textbook companies. So we're having those conversations. And it takes time. And so that's why I'm very committed to doing this for you guys, and especially for the small districts, so that you don't have to. You can focus on your kids. And there's a team. I think I saw some names on here. There's a team of Alliance members. There's about 6 of us that's committed to doing the vetting for everybody in the state. You guys submit it, have them fill out the paperwork, and we'll help you out. Are all the apps blocked until approved? As much as we can, and if we find one that the teachers are using and it's a very big no-no, we block it immediately. But it's difficult to block everything, right? So it's a game of hide and seek. But if you have applications like Catch On or Clever has some data analytics on what softwares are being used, you can see those things. And we don't just try to block it, but we engage the staff and say, hey, we're seeing everybody using this, and we have those analytics. What's good about it? Do you have a contact for them? And we send the vetting software or applications to them, and we work through them. We don't just try to block it and say no. We work through them. I have a process called purgatory, where they're not quite there yet, or teachers are using it, so we want to get through that process. Unless there's a huge data security risk, we let it go for a little bit, especially if they don't collect PII. We constantly talk to our staff about, hey, you're creating accounts, stop it. If you're just using it, logging in and playing in it, great. But if you have to create user accounts for kids and you might want to stop and let's think about this and let's get through the vetting process. So yeah, it's hard to block everything, Scott. It's difficult. That's why it has to start with the teachers to be mindful of what they're bringing in. And then the first question is, do I have to create an account? Ooh, I need to stop and talk to IT or to EdTech. What's the process? And just constantly having that conversation. And it's going to just take time. And be the bad guy, because at some point you're going to have to say you can't have it. And even your curriculum coordinator or even your superintendent says, I want this. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. However, here's why I don't recommend it. And sometimes we get overridden, and that happens. And that's okay, because it's an assumption of risk by the superintendent or by whoever. And you just work through that, and you work with the vendors to try to make it the best that you can. So, and that's what we're doing with our foreign language, because some of the best foreign language programs are overseas. So we're having those conversations. How do we mitigate and minimize the risk for our kids? Anything else? Tamara, did I answer your question on the vetting process? You still here?
Yeah, I am. For the most part, I definitely have some follow-up questions, but we can take it offline if you would be open to meeting me.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I'm putting my email on there, and please do not spam me with other things. But if you want to invite me out to beer, that's my cell number. So if I don't answer immediately, it's got a block and I want to go unknown, just tell me who you are and what school, and hey, do you have time to chat? You have access to me 24/7. I may not answer because my wife will thump me, but I will answer back to you. But that's my email and my cell number. So please reach out. Love to help you out if possible.
Yeah, that would be great. Maybe we can meet at the Louis Moore right there.
Yeah. You had me
Thank
at
you so
Louis.
much.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
All right. I think it looks like it's all the time we have. I'll give time back to Kurt and Donna. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for taking care of our kiddos and being passionate about our students and our parents and patrons. You guys have a tough job. So anything that we can do to make it easier for you on some of these aspects, that's our goal here with this process. So don't hesitate to reach out to me or to OPSRC or OKSPA. Have a great day, and I'll turn it over.
Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. We will be doing these once a month. We're kind of alternating between teacher PD and PD like this for admin. So there will be a website up, and I'll send out a link to everybody for the recording and slides for this. And I'll be sharing those with OKSTE also to post. So appreciate it. Donna, is there anything else you want to say?
Just thank you, June, again, and thank you all for attending today. And keep tuned in. More will be coming.
Thanks a lot.